Welcome to the 2023-2024 NBA Deep Dive Series, where we're going through every single team in the NBA from worst to first, from lowest rated to highest rated. And today we have the Oklahoma City Thunder, who are a surprise up-and-coming team. They have finally turned it over from rebuilding and trading away Kevin Durant, figuring out what they're going to do with Russell Westbrook and Cliff Paul, to eventually having this team now built around the man Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. A bunch of great pieces: Josh Giddey, Jalen Williams, Kenrich Williams. There's so many Williams, you can't even count them on your damn hand. And then they have guys coming back from last year. Chet Holmgren, they have guys they picked up in the draft, Cason Wallace. And this team is nothing but a bright future ahead of them. I believe this is the year that they're finally going to contend. But they are coming in at that 16th ranking because I can't give credit for work not done yet. Last year, they were remarkably good. They started the year pretty horrendously. I think they went 2-0, and then they lost a lot of basketball games. Were in the bottom 5 up there with the Victor Wembanyama sweepstakes, and then they kind of turned some things around after I believe, as soon as the calendar year turned over, they started playing above 500 basketball, were tops in the tiers and defense and offense just across the board. This team started to win basketball games, and they looked like a bona fide playoff team, which is why they made it to the play-in tournament. Ultimately came up a little bit short, but that is okay because their window of winning starts now. Starting this year is when we should expect the Oklahoma City Thunder to be legitimately competitive in the playoff tournament. But they did finish 9th last year, bumping up 7 spots from their 2022 NBA Power Rankings of 23rd now to 16th, and hopefully top 10 by the end of this year. But they're coming in with a 79.6 rating because we just need to see what some of these guys do. Now, they did lose Dario Saric. Oh no, and Jared Butler. I mean, they didn't really lose anybody. They did pick up Cason Wallace in the draft, Keontae Johnson. Not sure what he's going to offer to the team year one. Victor Oladipo, I expect him to get cut. And then Vasilije Micic, a really big question mark unknown. How well is his game going to translate over from the EuroLeague to the NBA? Everybody's saying Vasilije Micic is going to be the secret weapon for this team. Well, unfortunately, they already have a couple of weapons, and let's start talking about the top 5 with Josh Giddey. Now, I had a little bit of an issue with Josh Giddey's development last year. Across the board, he's up statistically. You look at his points, rebounds, assists. He bumped up his points per game from 12 to 16. He bumped up his rebounds by 0.1. His assists basically remained the same, 6.4 to 6.2. He dropped his turnover rate down 0.4 from 3.2 to 2.8. He bumped his shooting splits up from the field, 41.9 up to 48.2. Even from the three-point line, he jumped it up, which was horrendous in his rookie year, 26.3 to a pretty mediocre 32.5%. So across the board, statistically, he got better. But man, he's got to learn how to shoot the basketball, because when Josh Giddey and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander are on the court at the same time, one of them is going to have to play off ball, and shooting from the three-point line is a significant weakness for this team. But he's a really good passer, plays with an incredibly high IQ, and I just want to see a little bit more off-ball work. He's got a little bit of that Trae Young in him, where if he's not holding the ball, running the offense, facilitating the plays, he'll stick away from the play and kind of not offer much to the team as far as versatility. So guys like Jalen Williams and Lou Dort are pretty good cutters, but he's not going to give you that. Defense is okay. He's sort of like an Austin Reeves defender, where he's not a great athlete, but he's got really good size, that 6'8" frame, and he makes his man work to get around him. And by the time that he's put up enough defense to where his man has to get around him, there's at least enough rotating from Jalen Williams, or this year going to be from Chet Holmgren. Did finish last year with a 114 defensive rating, negative 0.3 defensive box plus minus. Not great, not terrible. Like I said, he's got a really good frame on him. 6'8" is pretty stark for the point guard position. I fully expect Chet Holmgren coming in this season, if he's going to remain healthy, to hide a lot of those defensive blemishes that Josh Giddey has. Now, the one thing that he does need to work on top of his shooting is his finishing, because he finished in the 32nd percentile last year around the rim for forwards at 62.4%, which is frankly unacceptable. He does have a decent little push shot floater, but you look at his field goal percentages from distance, 45% from 3 to 10 feet, 10 to 16 feet, 45%, 16 to 3-pointer, basically the mid-range, 30%, and then the 3-point line, 32.5%. So while I really like his craftiness in getting to the rim, he doesn't finish well pretty much anywhere on the court, and it is a problem when he's not the primary attacker, when he's not the one running the offense, because you have a man named Shai Gilgeous-Alexander there. So all that to say, he's still a super young kid going into his year 21 season. He's not even able to legally drink yet, so we can't really cast aspersions on how his game has improved or not improved. I just like to see those statistics improve a little bit across the board. Again, get him to where he's a little more league average, and then find some strengths in his game where he's going to be an elite player. If it's not 3-point shooting, that's fine. He can be an elite finisher like Jalen Williams or Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. If none of those work, he can be elite at getting to the free throw line like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is. If he's not elite at that, he can be the ultimate floor general and be a lockdown defender. We just need to start to see a little bit of those skills that set Josh Giddey apart from the rest of the NBA. Right now, he's pretty good, sort of a B- player across the board, but has really good size. And then he's playing on a team that has no real expectations. So nothing's going to come when Josh Giddey has a bad game. But Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has arrived. He really went into the lab and said, all right, I can't shoot the three anymore. So I'm going to put my head down and I'm going to drive hard into lane every single possession and either pull up from the elbow, lay the ball up, or get a foul. He cut his 3-point attempts from 5 to 2.5 last year, which works because his 3-point shooting has gone down. Normally, that's not how it works in the NBA, but he went rookie year 36%, sophomore year 34%. Then he had a big breakout year, 42% on 4.9 attempts in the year 2020, but then 30% and 34% last year, which just isn't going to cut it in the NBA. But Shai Gilgeous-Alexander scored 31 without a three-pointer, which is ridiculous because he's so smooth in the paint. He glides around defenders, jump stops, euro steps, pump fakes. He's masterful at using his leverage and using body contact to avoid contested shots. What he does perfectly is he's the one who initiates the contact, shoulders, elbows, bumps his man, and then kind of bounces off and gets that separation needed to get a nice shot off, and his touch is ridiculous. It might be hyperbolic, but does he have perfect touch? Because he's Luka Doncic. He's DeMar DeRozan around the rim, where he knows how to kiss the ball off the rim, off the glass, to where it dribbles in like a hacky sack. You're not going to see Shai Gilgeous-Alexander clanking shots around the rim. He led the NBA last year in drives per game. He led the NBA in efficiency. He was second in points outside the restricted area, top 20 in mid-range scoring, third in free throw attempts, 78th percentile in the ISO scoring, 82nd percentile pick and roll ball handler. Only 6 players in the history of the NBA averaged 31 points on 62% true shooting. 23.9 drives per game last year, led the NBA over the second place guy, John Morant, at 20.3. He shot 46% from the mid. He's just so unstoppable across the board offensively. Defensively, his stocks were up. 1.0 blocks per game, career high. 1.6 steals per game, career high. He was doing everything for this team, flying around, and was a bona fide MVP caliber player. But for all of the good that he has, for all of the clutch baskets, game winners, MVP caliber numbers, the most important ability is availability, and he has not proven that he can stay healthy through an entire season. His rookie year, he played 82 games, but then 70, 35, 56, and 68. So there is some concerns with all the contact that he draws when he plays, with all the fouls that he gets, and all the times he's falling to the floor. He is a slender built guy, and he does have durability concerns. So that is one thing to look out for when we're watching Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, because on the court, he's masterful at everything minus being a 3-point shooter. Off the court, though, is where the problem is, because this team relies on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander to be a superstar, and when he's not available, they have to try to compensate in other areas. Now, guys who can pick that up is Jalen Williams and Lou Dort, who is their defensive lockdown specialist. He's one of those guys that, man, I just wish he was 5 inches taller, because he comes in at about 6'1", maybe 6'2", plays hard defensively, but his jumper comes and goes, and that's always going to hold him back. His three-pointer isn't falling, and he's getting beat up by size. He gets borderline unplayable, but he does consistently guard the other team's best player, which is a big task that guys like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander don't want to handle night in and night out. He is an awful finisher, which is, I mean, he's 6'1" with no hops, and he has a center layup package. Like, how good is he really going to get? He's in the 6th percentile when finishing at the rim, which ideally you like that to get better, but this is just kind of who Lou Dort is at this point. A lockdown defender with a streaky 3-point shot. Now, when the Thunder are fully loaded, I'm kind of hoping that he can be relegated to the bench, be more of a defensive specialist, catch and shoot guy. Because after that James Harden Memorial game where he was locking him down defensively, we kind of figured out that Lou Dort is a star, maybe borderline star, but he's not a superstar. He's closer to a Marcus Smart than a Mikal Bridges, if you will, because his usage rate dropped after going big in 2020, 21.7% usage rate, jumped that up to 23.3%, and then last year, because of the breakout of Jalen Williams and some of the other young guys, dropped to 19.8%. I think that's going to get even lower, and he's at a negative VORP his entire career because he is streaky from the three-point line. Some months, last year especially, he's going to shoot under 30%, and then some months he's going to shoot over 34%, and there's no real balance with that. So Lou Dort is a great defender, but kind of tough to look out for. And one guy that I hope takes his place is Jalen Williams, who balled the hell out last year. Not the other Jalen Williams, this Jalen Williams. I'd really like to see him take over on the defensive end, be the primary POA defender and the other team's best player. He's got the size, about 6'5" with a 7'3" wingspan, and maybe they could bring in a Pokashevsky or a Micic to the starting lineup and let Jalen Williams be the primary defender, as well as being great on the offensive end, because he was incredible last year as a rookie. I think he finished second in the Rookie of the Year voting. Read the floor great, was a good decision maker, made his shots at a high clip, and just looked like a veteran out there. He had the feel of when to attack the paint and when to pull back, what angle, how to get a shot off. And even though his 3-point percentage isn't exactly where you want it, you like it to be closer to the 38-39%. He's a young kid, 22 years old. That can continue to get better while he does everything else well. He's such a creative finisher. He's honestly close to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in that split. He's already elite at finding angles in small spaces, driving, creating contact, and then reaching around and passing the ball off to a cutter and ducking under the defender and putting up an open layup. He has soft touch. He plays with great control and even greater confidence for a young guy his age. He finished 70% and finishing at the rim in the 80th percentile. He just had an overall impressive year and was probably one of the more impressive young players that we've seen in recent memory. Hopefully he continues to improve his game. And then the last piece of the puzzle is Chet Holmgren, who's going to be another one of their question marks, because he sat all of last year with that, a Lisfranc foot fracture, which is always a major point of concern when these big guys get lower leg injuries, especially the foot or the knee. You start to raise a red flag and say, oh no, what's going to happen next? Because Chet Holmgren is basically the perfect unicorn. First it was Evan Mobley, and then Chet Holmgren was even taller and even more guard skillsy. And then Victor Wembanyama was the ultimate taller guard skillsy center, 7'5", whatever, big man. But Chet Holmgren is the original. He is the OG. He's got guard skills. He can pass. He can run the ball coast to coast, pick up a rebound over a shorter guy, and then step back and drain the ball from three. He is the prototypical perfect. I don't even know if he's a big man or a power forward or what, but he is your modern day NBA big 7-footer that you want. Shoots the three, passes the ball. Now, the three-pointer may come and go. If I remember correctly, his first year at Gonzaga, he struggled the first half of the season and was shooting in the 20s with his three-point percentage. Did eventually bump that up to a 39.8%, fairly respectable for a college kid. The NBA line is further back, and I don't think he shot too well in Summer League, but this is going to be basically his rookie season. What can Chet Holmgren offer to the team? Because we just don't know. And can he stay healthy? Because I always worry about these super huge, these super tall, but skinny guys who can get bullied, because the scouting report is out on him. Get into his chest, get under him, get into his body. Kenny Lofton Jr. last year in the Summer League basically told everybody how to play him, how to move him out of the way, and how to make sure that he doesn't block your shot. Now, the one thing about Chet Holmgren that I did not see, at least in college, is that he's got that dog in him. He's got some bully ball to him. He'll get up in your chest, even though he has no strength whatsoever. He's built like Gumby out there. He is not afraid to punish you back, bump you back. And you can see that when he went up against Jalen Duren, who is stronger, who does have that size and those broad shoulders. Jalen Duren wasn't able to bully a Chet Holmgren because Chet Holmgren has that fight in him. So there is a respectable clip to have from there. What is he going to offer to the team offensively? Not really sure yet. I don't know if I can trust his three-point shot. Like I said, it's streaky. And then the rest of his game needs a lot of polish because he doesn't have great balance when he drives. He's not a great screen setter yet, but this is going to be technically his rookie year. So we're going to have to see what Chet Holmgren offers to the team. Theoretically, if everything hits for him, though, he has the most upside out of everybody on this team, and that's including Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Imagine a fully stacked Chet Holmgren being exactly what everybody wants Victor Wembanyama to be. Imagine him coming out of the draft a year earlier and now he's putting it all together. That could be fun. But let's talk about the rest of the team. And at the point of this recording, the Thunder have too many players on their team, so some of these guys are going to have to go. I'm thinking Trey Mann goes, Victor Oladipo goes, Jeremiah Robinson Earl goes, and I think they have to cut at least one more person. Might be Aaron Wiggins, might be Jack White. Yet to be seen, but we'll go ahead and just talk about these guys in order. Trey Mann, to me, is the most likely one out of this team. He just doesn't fit anymore. He's a defensive liability, mostly due to his lack of strength and effort, but he is a bucket when he gets going. He's one of the most talented handlers of the ball. He's got that dribble, but his three-point shot completely fell off last year, and more so than that, his confidence completely fell off. Because you look at Trey Mann when he's feeling it, when he's got the ball in his hands, when he's being kind of a Jamal Crawford for the team, he is just money from everywhere on the court. He can pull up from 30, he can pull up from 35, and he's not afraid. But then when his confidence is lacking, he's going to miss a layup, and then his already slight build is a problem on the defensive end. He's one of these guys that I think just needs a change in scenery for career improvement. You already have your bona fide stars in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. You have your shooters in Isaiah Joe. Trey Mann is your prototypical, inefficient, ball-handling volume scorer, and he probably just needs to be a high usage rate off the bench kind of guy. He has the dribble moves, he has the sauce, he has the touch, he has no conscience, good and bad offensively. He just struggles defensively, and he struggles with discipline, and those are some of the takeaways that you have from Trey Mann, who is a former first-round pick. So there is some talent there. I think there's an NBA player there. I just don't know if it's going to come on this Thunder squad, who's starting to look to win basketball games, and they have an overabundance of guards with drafting a guy like Cason Wallace and with picking up a Vasilije Micic, who might be a little more disciplined on the defensive end. Victor Oladipo might be the other guy that's on his way out. I believe he's going to be injured for at least the first month of the season. And with Victor, it's just tough. Another one of these guys who dealt with injuries and got completely battered. He had that one great season back in Indiana and has just kind of been living on fumes ever since. Even if he's back in Oklahoma City Thunder, I don't think he can bring the magic back. His athleticism kind of just got shredded by injuries. His jump shot has fallen off. He's still a decent playmaker, and if he was healthy, the Heat may have had a better chance going up against the Nuggets, but he makes a lot of boneheaded decisions to match his playmaking. He's not a great perimeter defender. He's good enough. He lacks the size, probably about 6'3", 6'4", one of these undersized guards that is all over the league. But at the end of the day, it's just really tough to rate what Victor Oladipo is. You see last year, his VORP was 0. His defensive box plus minus was positive, but then his offensive box plus minus was negative. And that's not who you think of when you think of Victor Oladipo. His defensive rating was 112, which is decent, but then his offensive rating is 99. His turnovers were 2.1 to his 3.5 assists. It's just tough to see what Victor Oladipo is, because year after year, he tears a quad, or he tears an ACL, or he tears his arm and his shoulder and his leg and his knees. He's just one of these guys that couldn't catch a break because of the explosiveness that he had. His body didn't have the frame to match, and it's kind of more of a tragedy than anything else. I think there is a 10 to 15 minutes coming off the bench playmaker for a team that's looking to win basketball games that Victor Oladipo can provide. Is it on the Thunder? Probably not, but he is somebody that we do want to talk about. Isaiah Joe is here, who was a revelation for this team. Just an undersized, sharp shooter, and I bet these Philadelphia 76ers are kicking themselves for letting him go for basically nothing. He was really good for the Thunder once he finally got his chance, and obviously the shooting's there. 40.9%, best on this team, top up there in the NBA, but he's also done pretty well at driving when defenders close out, playmaking a little bit. His defense is maybe average, maybe a tick below, but he's already better than Duncan Robinson, and he tries hard, and he's a better athlete than you think. He played more minutes last year than his entire career. Defensive rating 116, that's not great, but then offensive rating 125, VORP of 1.0, box plus minus of 0.9, offensive box plus minus of 1.3, corner three-point shooter, which is where you really get a feel for how good these guys are shooting the three, 51.9%. That'll work, and I fully expect all of these skills to come along in the Oklahoma City Thunder next year, and he's going to be a definite rotation piece and a weapon for this team. And on top of that, he's super young, 23 years old, going into his year 24 season. He has nothing but upside to offer to this team, as well as already on the court versatility, being a guy who can rain it from three. Ousmane Dieng is going to be the super interesting pick because he got picked alongside Jalen Williams, but he was a lot more of a raw prospect, a lot more of a high upside pick. If he develops everything well, he could be a Giannis, but he could also be a bust, or he could be a Nikola Jovic kind of player. Yet to be seen. He didn't get a lot of run last year because he was a project guy, but he's 6'10", and he can do a little bit of everything except shoot the ball. And you can see that from his three-point percentages, 26%, his free throw percentages, 65%. He cannot shoot the ball. He lacks touch completely, but he does everything else well. He defends, he rebounds, he ball handles, he passes, he play makes. He's another guy who just needs to learn how to shoot, but he's got that perfect 6'10" frame. And imagine if everybody else on the team is shooting a little bit better from three. Say Josh Giddey gets it up to 35, Shai gets it up to 37, Lou Dort has a hot month, Jalen Williams gets it up to 37, and then Chet shoots 40% from the three-point line. Imagine replacing Lou Dort with Jalen Williams and then putting Ousmane Dieng into the starting lineup. The length and defense on this Thunder squad is ridiculous. But we're just going to have to see if Ousmane Dieng can improve his game across the board, because he's one of these players that is dripping with upside. He just needs to hit his potential. One guy who is living up to his potential is Jalen Williams, also known as the other Jalen Williams, also known as J. Will, also known as the classic Thunder archetype of hardworking, undersized 5, about 6'8", 6'9". He showed some signs of a mid-range jumper, evidenced by his 40% from the three-point line, but it's on not great volume. He works his ass off though and takes charges with the best of them. He's so good at reading drivers. This team had no shot blockers last year, so they kind of compensated by taking charges. I don't have the stats in front of me, but the Thunder were definitely up there in taking charges, and he was the first place charge taker in only 49 games. He took 43 charges last year. Second place was Kevin Love with 33, and he took like 10 or 15 more games than Jay Will did. The Thunder development staff deserves a lot of credit for the jobs they do developing these guys to their strengths, because Jalen Williams is not just a charge-taking guy, stretch-ish five. He also passes the ball well, and he reads the offense well, and he knows when to skip the pass. He knows when to sit on the perimeter and hit the next guy, and he's one of these kids who's just opportunistic, always in the right place at the right time. He does the little things well, rotates, is active on both sides of the court, active on the offensive glass, active communicator, makes a positive impact on every play. If someone needs a screen, he sets it. If someone's getting trapped, he makes himself available. If he needs to roll, he rolls. If he needs to pop, he pops. When someone drives baseline, he sets the screen for the shooter. He just makes the right off-ball basketball plays every single possession, and that is invaluable. Part of why Jalen Williams got ahead of a guy like Jeremiah Robinson Earl. And Jalen Williams, for all of his credit, was incredibly impressive last year as a rookie, no less. Is he going to get any better than that? Yet to be seen. It's not like he has a ton of upside compared to a guy like Ousmane Dieng, who's actually taller, or a Chet Holmgren, but he's certainly going to be a good player. And if Chet Holmgren is struggling with some of the bigger centers next year, don't be surprised if it's Jalen Williams who comes to bail him out off the bench. Let's talk about the next five, and really with the Thunder, there's another five after that, but Cason Wallace is their rookie first-round pick out of Kentucky, and Kentucky has a long history of picking up really good guards, evidenced by Tyler Hero and Tyrese Maxey. And I thought Ty Washington was going to be a little better. I think Emmanuel quickly too. They had so many guards in the last few drafts. Now, Cason Wallace, I'm not really sure what he's going to offer to an NBA team right now. He's just one of these guys who isn't elite at any one thing. He's decent on the offensive end. He's decent on the defensive end. He's decent as a shooter, but not remarkable at any one thing. He's got good instincts, plays the right way, but I don't love his game, and I don't project him as a starter. Seen him taking minutes away from guys like Josh Giddey. He's going to be competing with guys like Vasilije Micic. He's going to be competing with Aaron Wiggins, and he's a tick undersized, about 6'4", 6'5". He does have a strong build on him though. Was moderately impressive in the summer league. It's just going to be interesting to see what he offers to a team this upcoming season. Compare him to a guy like Kenrich Williams, who is basically a known prospect at this point, your prototypical hard-working Oklahoma City Thunder guy. And of all the guys on the team, Kenrich Williams has been here the longest, it seems, because he's a solid two-way wing, plays well, shoots the three at a decent clip, 37%. And then last year was tough because last year he had a season-ending wrist injury, and it was basically a Kenrich Williams year. 8 points, 4.9 rebounds, 2.0 assists, basically in line with everything that he does. His 2-point percentages was actually at an all-time high, shot 60.8% on all non-3-point shots, which was a career high, up from 56%. Defensive rating was decent, 114. Offensive rating off the charts at 126. And he's always been an advanced analytics darling because he tries so hard and he isn't a starter. He comes in off the bench and gives you those good minutes. His fatal flaw, though, is the free throw, because I don't know what happened. His rookie year, he shot 68% on low volume. Then it went 34%, 57%, 54%, and then 43% last year. I don't know if it's mental. I don't know if it's physical. I don't know if he just lacks touch, but Kenrich Williams cannot shoot the free throw well. But he is going to be a good rotational piece for this team. Probably 11th, 12th man off the bench, spot starter if needed in case of injury, and one of the few forwards that this team has. Because you look at the team, they don't have a lot of forwards outside of Ousmane Dieng and honestly Jalen Williams. Lou Dort is like 6'1". Pokusevski, is he a center? Is he a forward? Usman Garuba is probably going to get cut. Jeremiah Robinson Earl fills the center position. So as far as the forward position is for this team, they're pretty empty. There's bare bones, and Kenrich Williams is probably forward number 2 for this team and will get a lot of minutes. Speaking on Alexei Pokusevski, he finally had a good season and then fractured his leg. He just got battered by injury. The first 25 games that he played though, he averaged 8.8 points per game on 44% shooting, 5.1 rebounds, and 1.3 blocks. And after shooting 28.5% on 3.8 attempts from 3 in his first 2 years, he shot an efficient 37.6% on 3.3 attempts in that stretch. Then he broke his leg, came back, couldn't work his way into the rotation, and was just never the same player. And it was tough because last year was kind of a contract year for him. This year, I think he took his qualifying offer and is going to continue to break out, or at least try to. But now with the emergence of Chet Holmgren, where is he going to fit into the rotation? His unique skill set is ironically on one of the only 2 teams in the NBA where they don't need his unique skill set of being a ridiculous 7-footer with guard skills. And we'll just have to see if Poku's one of the guys who gets cuts or gets traded away. He's been a project player for this team for a long time, finally started to break out, and then just dealt with the worst timing of an injury possible. Now, Usman Garuba, I never was a huge fan of his game. He's from that PJ Tucker build, an incredible defender and awful offensively. His three-pointer was slowly improving, and last year, 40% from the three-point line seems impressive. It's just super low volume, 24 of 59, so I'm not sure how much stock you can really take from that. His corner threes for his career is about 35%. Just everything about Garuba's game is low volume, but he is a bona fide defender. I just didn't love his offensive game whatsoever. His playmaking was non-existent, evidenced by his 0.9 assists per game. His turnovers per 100 possessions is 2.3 last year. He got a little bit more run, played in 75 games, but only played about 970 minutes last year because of his offensive limitations. He's also fairly short, kind of from the Lou Dort build, but for forwards. He's about 6'5", 6'6", plays the small ball 5, which is not exactly what you want for a team that already is dealing with undersized issues. They picked him and Ty Washington up off the free agent heap, but I don't think he's going to be sticking around either. There is some upside if he ever figures out the game offensively, but outside of corner 3-pointers, I don't really see too much from him, and limited defensive ability. And lastly is Jeremiah Robinson Earl, the last of their undersized centers, kind of on the same development track as Isaiah Roby here, just an undersized guy, about 6'7", maybe 6'8" with the hair. Very fundamentally sound player, but lacks elite athleticism or any elite traits. Shooting was pretty bad. Basically anything that would make him a bona fide starter in the NBA, he does not have. He tries hard, makes a few mistakes here and there, and is just too short to play the 5, but the Thunder have been playing with these guys out of position for years. Isaiah Roby, Darius Bazley, Jalen Williams, Jeremiah Robinson Earl. He also really struggled, similar to Pokashevsky, in coming back from an ankle injury. His rim finishing was in the 5th percentile. His mid-range shooting is in the 35th percentile. His corner 3-point shooting was in the 24th percentile. His overall 3-point shooting is in the 34th percentile. There are just a lot of limitations to his game offensively. Defensively, he tries hard. He rotates well. He's a really heady defender, has good defensive instincts. That's part of why they took him out of Villanova, was because he was one of these smart, high IQ players. But in today's NBA, when you're only about 6'7" and you're playing against giants like Nikola Jokic, Jeremiah Robinson Earl isn't going to cut it. And then Jalen Williams came in and had a better rookie season than Jeremiah Robinson had and was overall more impressive. So I feel like Jeremiah Robinson Earl might be one of the guys that are on the cutting block when this team needs to trim down their roster. A couple of more guys as we talk about the rest is Aaron Wiggins, really solid player, moves well without the ball. He was assisted on 69% of his 2s and 95% of his 3s, which means he's not going to create his own shot, but he is an effort machine. Him and Lou Dort and Jalen Williams really contributed to this team being an all-effort, young, high-flying team. He had a couple of impressive stretches last year, but ultimately only finished with 6.8 points, played a few less minutes now that he got knocked out of the starting lineup because they're starting to look in a more winning direction. But he can offer something to your team as long as his 3-point shot continues to hover around that 39% that he shot last year versus his rookie year 30%. His offensive rating jumped up from 107 to 119. His defensive rating hovered about the same at 116. His offensive box plus minus was negative 1.5 last year. Defensive box plus minus negative 0.5, making him a negative defensive player. VORP at 0.0. So because of his contract, Aaron Wiggins might be one of the guys on the more outside looking in as far as earning minutes. He also is a tick undersized. Another one of these guys, about 6'5"-ish. Slight build, about 200 pounds. So there's a lot of competition in these guard spots, but Aaron Wiggins can certainly offer something to this team moving forward. Somebody who cannot offer something to this team moving forward is Davis Bertans, because he has the most untradeable contract in the world, and the Thunder took his contract so they can move up 2 spots in last year's draft. That is literally it. Nobody wants Davis Bertans. He's such a defensive liability. It's atrocious. If he plays more than, I think, 75% of his games, next year's contract gets guaranteed, and nobody wants that. Otherwise, only $5 million is guaranteed. So really, Davis Bertans is going to come here, ride the bench, maybe come in and spot shoot, take a couple 3-pointers and shoot them at about 35%, and then leave. Nobody in the NBA wants Davis Bertans. It's unfortunate. There was a time when he was the Latvian laser for the Wizards, and he got that big old contract extension. But at this point, his defense is so awful. His offense is so limited that there's not a lot he offers to a team. Kind of why guys like him and Duncan Robinson are starting to struggle to find spots in the NBA is because defense is starting to improve in today's NBA, and he's not a good defender. Vasilije Micic, and he is a huge question mark for this team and really for the NBA. he's kind of been kept on the outside of the NBA due to his draft rights because he probably would have been too good for the Oklahoma City Thunder to continue tanking and trying to get top 5 picks. But now that the Thunder are looking in a direction to win, Vasilije Micic is going to come in and earn some serious minutes. You look at his contract, he signed a 3-year, $23 million deal, but he's just a big unknown. 29 years old, EuroLeague superstar, multiple-time EuroLeague MVP, 88th percentile in total offense, 90th percentile in half-court offense, 97th percentile in pick-and-roll offense at 1.167 points per possession, 95th percentile in dribble handoffs, 45% catch-and-shoot three-point shooter, and even a decent defender at that. But these EuroLeague guys are kind of like rookies in the NBA. They're going to have to see if their skill translates to the next level. Sometimes it does, sometimes it does not. And lastly is Jack White. I don't have any notes on him. 26-year-old guy, came over from Denver after playing 17 games, only played 66 minutes the whole last season, so we're not really going to talk about him because there's other guys who can actually offer something to this team, no offense, like a Keontae Johnson. And he was the kid who actually collapsed for Florida and everybody thought he was going to retire. He transferred over to Western Kentucky, Kansas State, one of those two. It was fairly impressive. Now, formerly he was a top 10 prospect and he's not that good anymore, hence why he fell to the 2nd round pick, but he still has a ton of size and decent athleticism after everything. I can just understand his conditioning being a huge red flag. He's got a lot of Tari Eason to him though in his game. A hardworking guy who gets buckets on the offensive end and on the defensive end. He's ridiculously jacked. He could be in the strongest player in the NBA competition. Even shot the ball really well at Kansas State. A tick undersized if you wanted to play the power forward position, probably about 6'5"-ish, but he might be able to offer some versatility to this team. Olivier Sarr, one of their other two-way contract guys, was actually pretty good last year, and they had to waive him because he was playing too good while they were trying to tank, and he had some nice borderline double-double games, being the only 7-footer that they've had since, probably since Kevin Durant, since Steven Adams. And he gave him good backup center minutes. He's got really good size in him, what a legit 7-footer, decent rebounder. I don't know what his upside is. He doesn't shoot the three-pointer well. He's already going to be 24 years old, and he's only played in 31 games in his first 2 seasons. But you look at it, his stats whenever he comes in, pretty decent. 17 points per 100 possessions for his career, 11.2 rebounds, 2.1 assists, 1.8 blocks. When he comes in, good things happen. Offensive rating 121, defensive rating of 114. Is he going to get his big break in OKC? Probably not, but he is a name to look out for. And lastly, Lindy Waters, everybody's favorite Oklahoma City Thunder sharpshooter. Interestingly, he's only a career 36% three-point shooter, but at the end of the day, he's a guy who gets his buckets up, gets his shot off. His defense isn't a horrendous liability, career 114 defensive rating with a career defensive box plus minus of negative 0.6, but everybody loves to root for Lindy Waters as the OKC kid, so I will too. But I don't expect him to crack the rotation, and we will move on to the coach and culture ranking where they're going to come in at tier 3. A lot of people are talking about how good they think of a job Mark Daigneault is doing, and it's tough because when you're grading these coaches, there's a couple of different types of coaches. There's the guys who can draft and develop the young guys, build their confidence, let them play to their strengths. Him, a Monty Williams, a Mark Jackson, and then you have the guys who actually win basketball games. That means they put people in their places. They make sure that their role players play their roles and don't break out of it. Make sure their stars get to play to their strengths and hide their limitations. Those are more of the Greg Popovich's, the Nick Nurse's, the Steve Kerr's. And I don't know at what tier Mark Daigneault fits into that because he's done a great job at developing these guys, but I don't know what sort of adjustments he'll make in playoff series when they're going back and forth against the same team in a 7-game set. So that's going to be tough to see. I probably would have rated him lower, but then you also have to take into account that Sam Presti is running the Oklahoma City Thunder front office, and he's probably just up there, top 2 of best in the NBA, just the job that he's done, making sure that they take on the bad contracts, but making sure that they also get draft capital out of it. Taking in an Al Horford and then trading him away for first-round picks. They just seem to always make the right move, press the right buttons. They do need to get a little lucky. It feels like the NBA lottery has not been kind to them, but at the same time, they still have this ridiculous stash of picks and talent, and the upside is looking up for the Oklahoma City Thunder. You look at their salary cap, and this is where I say it's their time to start winning basketball games because Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's max contract is going to kick in this season, $33 million. Davi Bertans, only $5 million is guaranteed in 2024, so he's pretty much dead cap. Lou Dort's contract is a little pricey at $15 million, going up to $17 million in 2026. Chet Holmgren, though, rookie deal. Victor Oladipo, probably gone. Vasilije Micic, 3 years locked in. He has a guaranteed contract, and that means some of the guys are on the outside looking in, like a Trey Mann, like an Aaron Wiggins, like a Jack White. For whatever reason to me, Vasilije Micic has been making demands, saying he wants to play starter minutes, saying that he wants a big contract when he's coming into the NBA as a EuroLeague guy, and the Thunder has finally capitulated, paid the man, locked him in, and now he's going to be taking minutes away. Josh Giddey, rookie deal. Kenrich Williams, not sure how to feel about his contract, 28 years old, locked in for the next 4 seasons, so a little long, but at the same time, he's a decent player for them. Cason Wallace, rookie deal. Goat Pokashevsky is going to be going into his qualifying offer contract extension year. We'll see how he plays. Usman Jang, rookie. Jalen Williams, rookie. Trey Mann, still a rookie, but he's another guy who's likely on his way out. Usman Garuba, I don't expect them to keep him around. Jalen Williams, rookie deal. Isaiah Joe, locked in. Jeremiah Robinson Earl finishing out his second-round pick deal. Aaron Wiggins, same thing. Jack White, locked in on a 2-year deal, but is he going to get any minutes? I don't know. And then you have your two-way guys in Keontae Johnson, Olivier Sarr, and Lindy Waters. So the contracts are always a little bit weird for the Oklahoma City Thunder. At the same time, you can't expect them to go out and make a huge free agent splash because they're not New York. They're not LA. So they have to kind of work and get creative to bring in talent, which they have certainly done by acquiring 8,000 draft picks. That is going to do it for this Oklahoma City Thunder recap, though. Projected win total this season of 42.5. Championship odds of plus 7,500. To me, if I'm a betting man, I'm expecting the Oklahoma City Thunder to take a step up because you have an MVP caliber player in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, proven to be clutch, proven to hit game winners, proven to be a leader on this team. You have ridiculous talent around him that's only going to continue to get better because they're so young. Josh Giddey, Jalen Williams, Lou Dort. You have first-round picks in Chet Holmgren and Cason Wallace coming in. You have former MVPs for the EuroLeague and Vasilije Micic. This team has nothing but upside, and they're one of the few teams that have finally come out of the tank, come out of the rebuild, and look like they're going to win some basketball games and be a legitimate threat in this year's playoffs. That is going to do it for me. Let me know what your thoughts are, what you agree with, what you disagree with, and I will catch you in the next one.